Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Corellian tradition and now also homeland of Gaia Thrift. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. Welcome, and as you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can type your questions or comments into whatever platform you're watching on if you're watching live and talk directly with us. And today, as pretty much every Wednesday, our guest is Krys Copeland from Corellian Publishing. Hi, Krys.
Hi, Reverend Don. How are you?
I'm good. How are you this week?
I'm doing well. I had some doctor's tests this morning, which luckily they came out positive. The results were
Yes.
great, but it was quite painful on my hands. It was for
Oh,
Parkinson's testing, but luckily no Parkinson's, so that's the good news.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yay. Congratulations. And hello to
Thank you.
Mary in the chat room.
Hi, Mary. Good to see you.
And I'm one day older than or one year older than previously by one day. I have made it one more year somehow, and here I am. And that's great. It was a lovely day. It was a very busy day.
Yes. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. And hello to Black Crystal in the chat room, and hello to Janet in the chat room.
Hi, Janet. Hi, Black Crystal. Good to see you.
And hope everyone is having a wonderful Wednesday. And what have we got this week, Prince?
Well, we've just signed a contract with a new author. She's actually published before, but she is new to us. So,
Okay.
and her name is Autumn Stoneflower. So please check her out on social media. I think she's most active on Facebook. But she writes fiction for middle schoolers. She's also a middle school teacher. So, and she has children of that age range as well. So we're really starting to expand our young adult offerings with Corellian Publishing, and it's been a lot of fun to. We've just started with the editing for this, and it's been really fun to read through this. This book, it's about four kids. I think they're roughly 11, 13 years old, somewhere in there. And they all attend a boarding school, in a Wiccan boarding school. So not a Hogwarts style boarding school. There's not like fantastical magic going on, but there is real life magic going on. And so this would be very similar to like a Catholic church that opens up its own Catholic school.
Okay.
This is a Wiccan group that opens up their own Wiccan school. And the four girls that are the central characters of the story are all quite unique. As I was reading through it, I know many of you in the chat will probably remember the 1980s and 1990s Babysitters Club books, and how each girl in the series was a very unique character, a different personality. So, oddly enough, my favorite character was also named Christy in the series. In that
Okay.
series, but this gave me that same kind of feeling, like of when I was an 11-year-old kid reading these books in bed and saying, "Oh, I'm her. I'm just like her." And I think that kids will find their own character that they are like in this story.
Oh, very
Quite
cool.
well-rounded characters, and very unique characters. And Arlene in the chat says, "Hello, hi Arlene, good to see you." And she says that she prays that you have had a wonderful birthday, Lord Don.
I did.
I'm really excited about the primary character in this story because her name is Cordelia. So, some of you out there might read the book. We're hoping to publish in August, just in time for back to school. And as you read the book, some of you might be thinking, "Oh, I'm a Cordelia. I'm just like this." And Cordelia is such a unique character because, for multiple reasons, it starts by letting the reader know that she is trans in a very simple and easy to understand way for children. She describes her experience at a Catholic school before attending the Wiccan school, and her mother believes that by attending the Wiccan school, she won't have the same issues that she had at the Catholic school. So the opening is quite startling when you find out that this poor girl, she was allowed to wear girls' uniform at the Catholic school, but then forced to go to the boys' bathroom. And obviously, every child, I think, and us even as adults, can remember back to that anxiety we would feel about accidentally walking into the wrong bathroom and getting teased by other students. So it's very easy, even for children who are not trans, to understand that fear immediately and understand exactly what that character was going through in that moment.
Mm.
And the other interesting thing about it is that while Cordelia is trans, it's not the primary focus of her life or her experience going through life. Just like every trans person in the world, they're more than just trans. They are a
Mm.
complete and full human being. And Autumn does a great job of really fleshing out these characters and making them feel three-dimensional and not just 2D characters, cartoon-like characters in the book. Um, oh, Arlene says the name Cordelia brings back memories of Buffy and Angel. Yes, exactly. This Cordelia is quite different from that character, but there is a character similar to that character from Buffy and Angel that has that same kind of over the top personality that Cordelia from Buffy and Angel had. This Cordelia, you can immediately tell from her kind of internal thoughts as you follow her journey into the school, that at least from an adult perspective, you can read this and go, oh, she clearly has some kind of anxiety issue. She has intrusive thoughts. And then she silences herself. At the beginning of the book, she doesn't say what she's thinking out loud
Mm.
very often, and so that's something that I think a lot of people can relate to. I myself
Oh
have
yes.
anxiety, and yeah, it just really it makes you kind of feel for that character really immediately, knowing what
Mm.
she's going through and how she's feeling, and how she feels so uncomfortable expressing herself to the world around her.
Very cool. And, one of the things people have asked for again and again is more materials for young people. So I think this sort of thing is very important.
Yes, yeah. I think that was also Autumn's goal with the book. Of course,
Mm.
she herself is Wiccan, and she is a mother herself and a teacher, and she knows there's this lack of material
Mm.
available, especially for that age group. There's lots of different things online for the younger children and for the older teens. But that middle age really just suffers from a lack of available materials. So we're
Yeah.
hoping to help fill that gap in the marketplace with some of our own offerings.
Very cool. What else have we got going?
We've just put on the website. I will show you what we've just added literally today. Let me share my screen here. We now have the Corellian Publishing logo that Reverend Eric Hebert designed for us. A beautiful logo. Here's the photo of the image in on the actual journal, and I'll bring up a close up here just so you can see just how amazingly crisp and clean and beautiful Reverend Eric, the job that Reverend Eric did on creating this logo. Um, so we've added both a hardcover A5 ruled as well as a hardcover A5 blank with 128 pages. I will continue adding new sizes and different products, not just the journals, but our mugs and all those offerings over the course of the next few weeks. So keep your eye out for that. You'll probably see one or two new products a week pop up on the website with our beautiful new logo.
Very cool.
And if anyone has any questions or suggestions in the chat for merchandise that they would like to see with our logo on it, just let us know. We'll be happy to create some custom products, whatever we have available, and add those to the website for people. So feel free to drop your suggestions into the chat today, and we'll be happy to add those to the website. I was very thankful to Reverend Eric for creating this logo for us. We went through a couple of drafts with him, and he was very easy breezy with it, helped us design exactly what we were looking for. So if you're looking to, design your own pagan logos or pagan material for your own branding, I strongly recommend Reverend Eric for that work. He is an amazing graphic designer. Oh, and Arlene has some questions in the chat. Oh, she says she'll let him know about the shout out. That's great. It's good that he's currently sleeping. I hope he's recovering well from his surgery. Um, and yes, he does excellent work. You're absolutely right, Arlene. She also asked, will this journal be good for journaling with dots? Interesting. Could you tell us a little bit more about journaling with the dots? I'm not familiar with that. Are you familiar, Reverend Dunn?
No, I'm not exactly certain what is intended there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Arlene, if you can just give us a bit of a clarification on that, I'm very curious myself. What is journaling with the dots?
Yeah,
And
I don't know who the dots are. I've known a few individual dots, but not
yeah,
a group of them.
yeah. She also asked, why is the price listed in pounds? It's actually in euros on my screen, just because I'm in the Netherlands. So whatever country you live in, it will pop up in your local currency. So no worries on that. It's priced at $14.99, very comparable with our other journals as well. So I think people will find this is a quite affordable option for a new journal. Many of the journaling has dots on the pages to help make straight lines. Interesting. I think ours only offers the ruled pages and the blank pages, but I want to take a look to see if that's an option somewhere. Maybe we can find a printer that can do the dots on the pages. That would be great. And the other
Yes,
products
indeed.
and the other products that I wanted to discuss today was actually the fact that in just a little over a week, your new book is being released, Reverend Don, the Book of Numerology.
Yes.
And what plans do you have for artwork included in that? When people think of numerology, they mostly think of like charts and graphs and things like that. But I know you love to add artwork to
I
all
do
of your
like
books.
artwork, and I think we will have depictions of the numbers in artistic ways that also talk to their correspondences. Because correspondence isn't everything metaphysical. When I was first studying Wicca back in the 70s, correspondence was one of the primary, at least where I was studying with Lady Crystal, that it was one of the primary teaching tools, which is the idea that this corresponds to that, corresponds to that. It includes things like planetary rulers, elemental qualities, etc. Oh, and Mary says, I love Reverend Don's artwork. Well, thank you, Mary.
It's
Um,
beautiful. If anyone wants your artwork, actually, they can find it in a special book that we have. I think it's the Super Omnibus, right?
that's true. And actually, I have probably two remaining copies of the collector's version of the Super Omnibus. If anyone is interested in those, I will let you have it um, at a reduced price of $40 if you mention having seen it on this program within the next 24 hours. Otherwise, you can find it, I believe, on the website at $50. And this is all that's left, I believe, of the collector's copy. Now we also have the ordinary copy also, and that also is right there on the website, either paperback or hardback. And it's full of artwork, and it's full of mini spells, which are poetic little mini spells from the mini spell collection from years ago, and the whole book, Reverend Don's super omnibus of in incantations and invocations for all occasions, was originally a joke in the mini spell product line, because we had all of these little poetic mini spells as part of the product line. And someone said, we should say there's a book they came from. So we created this ridiculously obnoxious title for the book they had all come from that didn't actually exist. And then a few years later, we said, why don't we make the book? And so Marianne Kay and I created the book, and Mary Cavalcante says, "I love my hardcover signed copy. I'm glad you do." And Janet says, "I can't wait to order more of your books. I'm a bookworm." Thank you, Janet.
I saw a
Um,
recent post about that on our social media as well. I think maybe it was Arlene, I believe, who tagged us in a post about being a book addict and
mm.
um, how we're feeding that addiction.
We are,
Yes, always happy to help a fellow addict.
yes, and
Um,
we're continuing to bring out more and more new interesting books, with numerology being the next one.
Thanks so much for that shout out, Arlene. That was very. First off, it just made me giggle. For
Yes,
so that's always nice. But it's always great to share the word of Corellian Publishing and how it can help everyone with their book addiction.
yes,
Yes. And Arlene also says the form that she's talking about with the journaling with dots is called bullet dotted journal notebook. So if anyone's interested in finding those, even if we don't carry them, it sounds like a cool concept. So I'd be very curious to see what those look like. And she said she also loves Reverend Don's books and art, and is looking forward to receiving her copy of the numerology book.
yes, indeed.
In addition to the omnibus, if there are people who really love Reverend Don's artwork out there, there are a few different ways you can interact with that artwork. So, first, we have the omnibus, as we've already talked about. Secondly, the Great Women of Antiquity coloring book, which is absolutely beautiful.
Yes,
I
indeed.
was it was a real privilege and honor to go through and set that up for our newest edition of it, which is now available through our website and through Amazon.com, including an ebook version. So you don't even have to print it, you can color it online if you'd like. So, yeah, those were really wonderful because on the back of each one, you have this wonderfully detailed biography of the character in question and their story and their importance in history.
Yes, indeed. That was a lot of fun to do.
Do you have any favorites from that one?
Probably Crooked Fox, who I believe is the very first one, and has been described as the first individual in history. And Oberon Zell and Morning Glory Zell gave her that name. But she actually has a number of different names that she's referred to in different media, because she's quite a famous archaeological find. And I saw actually a post about her on Instagram just the other day. What makes her so famous is that she is the first person for whom we have her body that was recovered from her tomb, her fingerprints, because she was a potter, and her tomb was her house that was burned over her after she died, and unfinished pottery was fired in the pyre, probably unintentionally, and preserved her fingerprints along with her body. And her portrait, because there was a bead among her collection that showed a woman with a crooked jaw. And her skeleton showed that she also had a crooked jaw. And there's the picture.
Yeah.
And the likeness is taken directly from the bead I was just talking about. And it's one of the earliest portraits in human history. The very first one that can be identified as a particular sitter. It's not the only good portrait out of that little prehistoric village, but it's the only one where they can say it was this person. And she is the earliest person of whom all of these different things can be said. And the house in the background is based on the description of where she would have lived. The costume is entirely hypothetical. One has no idea what she would have worn, but it seemed reasonable.
I think it's very reasonable considering the location that she was found and the time period
Yeah,
that she comes from. Absolutely. I can actually show you the full book here. I found
Hmm.
a copy of it on my hard drive. So let me share that with you. Let's see. Um, I don't know if I have it. Let's see. It'll take just a minute for me to find it. It's in my Chrome tabs, but I'm not seeing the actual one. Let me close out some of my background Chrome tabs here that I still have open and see if that helps. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Yeah, here's the full picture, and you can see on the back here that Reverend Don has this very detailed, yeah, from the Czech Republic. I was trying to remember exactly which country it was. I've been to the Czech Republic just last summer, and yeah, I love the details of it. Actually, do really well show kind of some styles of art from around that time period. Maybe not necessarily directly from the Czech Republic, but definitely from this time period, especially with the housing in the back.
Well, she is from Dolní Věstonice, and there is a famous goddess statue from there, which is very cool.
And you can tell there's 34 different characters from this particular book. And Sappho, of course, is my favorite
Okay.
from this
Yeah.
one. For the queer aspects of it, and yeah, I just love the entire history that you've included with all of these. It was really educational for me. I'm a history
Well,
buff,
thank you.
by no means a history expert, and so really getting into a lot of the details about their lives and their importance in the world as a whole, as well as in that particular time frame, was quite fascinating. I'll just scan through here so we can see a few of the characters. We have Fu Hao here from Chinese history. And there is also Wu Zetian. You had quite a couple, I think at least a few different Chinese characters.
Yes.
And Wu Zetian, I really enjoyed because I've taught classes about her when I taught Chinese students English. And we had lots of lessons about the kind of the strangeness of her story, because she was quite powerful,
Yeah.
but some of the things she did were also quite questionable, and I think would certainly be frowned upon, and especially coming from a woman, I think more than anything. And it started making me wonder, would if this had been, and of course there have been plenty of male rulers throughout history that have committed some of the things that she's done, would we have such a harsh look at what they've done? Or would we? I often see, like, take Alexander the Great, for example, who's done some pretty horrible things in history, but we still hail him as this powerful ruler and general and warrior. Why don't we give that same kind of honor and respect to some of these women from history who have definitely done some very questionable things by anyone's standards?
In some cases, yes.
Yeah.
In other cases, they're just ignored. Artemisia of Halicarnassus is one of the illustrations in the book, who is from more or less the same time as Alexander. She was a great naval commander, and was the satrap of Halicarnassus in the Persian Empire, and quite a figure to contend with. And you hear about her from time to time, but she doesn't get nearly the attention you might expect that she would get.
Yeah,
and it's not uncommon that a woman in a position of power will be condemned for the very same actions that are praised when a man takes them. Really good example, another illustration, Livia Drusilla, the wife of Augustus Caesar. If you look at the way the two of them have been looked at, they were a married couple for 50 years. They were the longest reigning Roman imperial couple. they were. It was generally considered a very good administration, but he did lots of terrible things to get himself into that administration and to maintain it. And she is, depending on which version of history you subscribe to, did a few things of her own. And if you've read I, Claudius, for example, she's portrayed as a terrible villainess. But if you look at everything he attributes to her, it's nothing compared to what Augustus did. It's, I think, 6 poisonings, and that's about the whole sum of it in order to keep the empire stable, as opposed to hundreds of thousands of proscriptions. And it's just interesting to see how the two different people working together are viewed.
Absolutely.
And that's Livia, my illustration of her. She lived to be quite elderly. And if you've ever seen I, Claudius from the BBC from the 1970s, she was played by Sean Phillips extraordinarily. I saw recently she and Brian Blessed, who played Augustus, got together for I think a 30-year reunion from that program, and they were talking about how he had terrible trouble figuring out how to play Augustus until it occurred to him he needed to play it like the mafia. And if he played him like a mafia don, it was going to be perfect, and that's what he did, and it was perfect. It's a great production, but very fascinating figures out of history, and in the Julio-Claudian dynasty, a lot of prominent women, some of whom were very successful, some of whom were not. And of course, probably the most famous was their principal opponent, Cleopatra, Ptolemaios of Egypt, who almost prevented the Judeo-Claudian dynasty from being there, but not quite. And this is the illustration of her. And of course, Cleopatra was a Ptolemaic ruler of Egypt. That means a Hellenistic ruler. And I've shown her in that light. This is much more what she actually would have looked and dressed like than what you would normally see. She was not running around in classical Egyptian drag. Now, she may have worn it for celebrational purposes, because she was a pharaoh.
Yeah.
Yes, she was ethnically Greek and culturally primarily Greek, although the Ptolemies did have a lot of Egyptian symbolism and reference in their artwork, but not really in their clothing. In their clothing, they were pretty typically Greek. And it's always interesting to see almost any post about Cleopatra online, because everybody wants to argue about who she was, but who she was is not in question. She was the daughter of Ptolemy Auletes, and presumably 100% Macedonian.
And the other interesting thing about the coloring book that I particularly enjoy, as someone who colors a lot, uses it for color therapy, is the style that you've drawn this in. You have these little sections of repetitive, almost mandala-like images inside the overall image, like the repetitive leaves on her dress here and the columns behind her. As someone who just loves to zone out while coloring, this is a zone out coloring book. You can just truly get into that moment and zen and vibe with what you're doing and what you're discovering as you color along with it.
So if you're interested in the coloring book, you can find that at CarelianPublishing.com.
Yes.
And with that, we've kind of used our half hour. So I'm going to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you, Krys, for joining us.
Thank you.
And let us close with our prayer, as we always do. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives, and we ask you to help us to always keep an active and open mind and continue learning the many wonderful things this world offers us. Help us to delight in knowledge and in the expansion of our brains, whether through books or through experiences or through whatever means whatsoever. Help us to be all that we can be, beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors. We thank you with great love and knowing you are always with us from respect. We thank you for your presence and may you be blessed now and always. And I thank you for your presence. May you be blessed now and always. And I will see you tomorrow.
Blessed be.